right. So the solution to the problem of mind reading is to ask yourself one question. How do I know that? Let's go back to the Peter situation in the church. We have somebody as evil. How do I know that they are evil? No, I will tell me. I'm just saying that sometimes, a lot of times, we have no evidence, but we come to conclusions. And it can help by asking, how do I know that? And this question needs to be asked every time you're going to speak evil of somebody to another person. Ask yourself, how do I know that? The second solution is to avoid putting words in people's mouth. Listen. And don't assume. Ellen White says in the book Acts of the Apostles, page 319, Christ-like love places the most favorable construction on the motives and acts of others. In other words, if you're going to put a mental state on the person, put a good one. Amen? That's what she's saying, you know. If you're going to put a mental state on the person, put a good one. It does not needlessly expose their faults. It does not listen eagerly to unfavorable reports, but seeks rather to bring to mind the good qualities of others. Do you have a question over there? Okay. Yes. Yes. Words have so much power. That's a whole presentation by itself. All right, so, and listen, I'm telling you, folks, that besides reading the Bible and reading Ellen G. White's writing, getting this EQ concept has the greatest impact on my life spiritually and in terms of my relationship, both in my family and as a leader, whether as a pastor or now that I'm a lecturer and also in charge of young people. I have learned, sometimes it's painful, you know. Sometimes you want to come to conclusions, you know, you want to go, but you have to wait. You have to wait. Yes, don't make assumptions. Number 5 is fortune telling. Fortune telling. Or thinking the worst. This is a cognitive distortion in which a person concludes that his or her predictions are 100% accurate, regardless of the probability that they might not occur. So, here's an example. My children haven't come home and it's 12 a.m. Something bad must happen to them. And because you conclude that something bad must happen, you start to react. So do you realize how powerful self-talk is? You just tell yourself that something bad happened, and immediately your blood pressure, immediately you start to make phone calls. Immediately. Now the other side of that is also true. You can also have too much positive expectation. Jamaica is playing a football match, and you're positive that Jamaica must win. And you know, have no other expectation than that Jamaica going to win. So guess what it does? It creates a doom and gloom mentality. A pessimistic outlook can even produce suicidal thoughts, jumping to conclusions and panicking. What is the solution? The solution is to think about this. There are two options. When you face a situation like this, there are two things that can happen. Number one is that the worst can happen, and number two, the worst doesn't happen. Two possible situations. And if you worry without knowing what happened, you're going to lose. Anything happen, you're going to lose. Because if the worst happen, you're going to lose anyhow, because you worry plus the worst happen. And if it doesn't happen, you're going to lose because you worry and it doesn't happen. So, your best position is not to worry. As the anti-gay guilty are reading our mind. Now, I have an experience in school that helped me to overcome this. You know, I had a bad situation where I was studying for an exam faithfully. And the long and short of the story is that it so happened that I actually missed the exam because I miscalculated the time of the exam. And when the worry started to come down on me, because if I fail this course, I'm going to put it back another year because it's part one of a part two course. And then like a thought came to me and said, is God worried about this situation? And I said, no. And I said, but if God knows everything and him not worried, then why should I worry? So I stop worrying. I pray, Philippians 4, I claim the promise. I said, God, give me that peace. And I totally forgot about it. When we got to school Monday morning, the teacher was giving out test paper. And then he said that the scores are so low, he's going to give another test and use the best grade out of the two. Now, at that time, I'd already overcome worrying. So it wasn't even exciting for me. I just said, oh, praise God, yes, but I had already got the victory. Right? 1 Corinthians 10:13 says this. There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But God is faithful. Who is faithful? Who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able, but will with the temptation also make a way of escape, that you may be able to bear it. So trust God that whatever situation you face, you can handle it. Amen? Because whether you worry or not, you're going to have to handle it. So brace yourself and trust God. Number 6, blowing things out of proportion or shrink them below their size. It's called magnification or minimization. Magnification is where you place inappropriate exaggeration on the way a situation or people are truly are. So you're viewing them through a telescope, making a mountain out of a molehill. Having an inflated view of yourself. Is that possible? Yes. When you have an inflated view of yourself, here are some symptoms. Number 1, trying to be noticed, always wanting to be noticed. Craving attention, itching for compliments, needing to be important, loathing the idea of admitting that you're wrong, being strongly opinionated or argumentative, demanding your own way, wanting control over others, flaunting your individual rights, refusing advice, being critical, yet resenting criticism, and thinking you have excellence you don't have. I know people like that. And what caused this, by the way, folks, is flattery. When we allow our young people to grow up on flattery, they grow up having inflated view of themselves. And I think that this is a chronic disease of this generation. I can tell you that. There are young people who are growing up who they are not humble, Aunt Merle. They know everything. And they don't need to listen to you because they know what to do. That's it. That's flattery. And we have to recognize, brother and sister, that the human nature can't handle that. Anyway, I tell you that God will have to allow them to fail miserably so that they can have. Let me tell you something. You see, besides getting to know God, getting to understand yourself is one of the most important knowledge. To understand yourself, understand your limitations, understand your potential to fail. Because what that will do, it will help you to depend on God more and stop trusting in yourself. There's a quotation by Ellen G. White about the danger of flattery. I don't have time to read it. I would suggest that every parent should read that. Now, minimization is the opposite of that, where you shrink things down to size and don't play good things that happen. They may overlook important red flags in a romantic relationship, business opportunities, or major life decisions. So you are failing at work, but you can't see it because you overlook the fact that your boss is talking to you about coming to work late. You said, sure, that's not important. And even when the boss calls into a meeting, you don't realize that is strike 2. And strike 3 to soon come. And it's only when you get fired, the reality hits. Say, boy, something was wrong. Personalization is number 7, or blame game. This is where you blame yourself for things you could not have avoided. Blaming yourself for things that you're partly responsible for. For example, let's say you were in a car accident. Somebody bounced in your vehicle, and 1 year after that they die. And you can't live with yourself because you caused them to die. You don't accept the reality that the accident is not, it's not completely your fault. Accidents do happen. Things happen. So don't personalize things like those and take on blame where you should not. Number 8 is emotional reasoning, making decisions based on how you feel. Hello? I feel like a loser, and so I must be a failure. I feel guilty, so I must have done something wrong. I feel inadequate, so I must be a worthless person. I feel overwhelmed and hopeless, so the problems must be impossible to solve. I feel lazy, so I might as well stay in bed. Does that sound familiar? You can make decisions based upon how you feel, and that is wrong. You can't be successful in life if you make decisions based on how you feel. Okay? 1 John chapter 3:20 says, "For if our heart condemn us, God is greater than our heart and knoweth all things." Let me tell you something. The devil is a master at trying to make you feel bad. That is his one of his strategies. Bringing on fear and bad feeling. And you have to be able to look aside from those and move on. Number 9, one of my favorite, not my favorite in terms of what I practice, but favorite in terms of when I come to understanding, is called labeling or mislabeling. This involves the use of inaccurate inflammatory descriptions to label oneself or another person. Okay? How does labeling work in reality, in general? When a food factory put a label on a can, the ingredient list describes what's inside. Am I correct? very emotionally intelligent audience. So that's what we do when we label people. When we label people, we are saying that this is what they are and they can't change. And in our relate to them, we never change our view of different from the label that we give them. Are we together? So labeling can be wrong. What are some examples of labeling? There are general ones and there are specific ones. When you label somebody as good for nothing, when you label somebody as lazy, when you label somebody as worthless, my mother was a good mother, but one day, she said to me, what a boy donkey. Now, I know she meant well, but I thought about myself, what donkey mean? I'm going to do research on it. That's why I think, And I said, don't care. I said, okay. So it means that I don't care. And that's not a bad label. It means that I am a carefree person. So I just undo the label myself by talking to myself. Anyhow, here are some other type of labels that we create. For example, we label somebody as JLP. We label somebody as PNP. Well, Christian is a good label. The point is that once we label them this way, they can't come out of that box in our minds. We don't give them a chance to come out of that box. And so the solution to this, well, the effects of labeling is that it creates polarization of relationships. There's no space for negotiation or relationship. Escalation of anger, just like Israel and Palestine. Label one side as Palestinian and label one side as Israeli, and it's fight till they drop. Right? Damage self-worth, and so on. The solution is to cultivate an atmosphere of respect. I had to change my views about especially people from other denominations. I said the Adventists to label people in. Don't we label people, brethren? Yes. We label people. I had the privilege of going to Europe with a group of Christians from another different denomination. I observed them. And that changed my view of how I relate to other people. No, I don't have to agree with them to say that they are doing things right. I can acknowledge what they are doing wrong and still respect that they are Christians. But the Adventist label that we put on people is that they have to be Adventists for us to respect their Christianity. That's a wrong type of labeling, and God is not pleased with it. You don't have to cut off people to hell to relate to them. You can respect what they're doing while disagreeing with them. Right? Very important. So you want to also be a model of respectful behavior. Explain to others why name calling is wrong. We grew up on a name calling. But I can't repeat some of the names they call me Miguel when they go to school. Once something bad happened at school, that you get that label. You get that stick on you. Avoid name calling yourself and correct or walk away. Final one is discounting the positive. This is when a person had a difficult time accepting compliments, or when somebody says something positive, they can't take it as it is. They still have to say something negative about maybe the person didn't mean what they say, and stuff like that. They can't accept when somebody say positive something about them. And that persons like these normally have a negative self-image. And our society, especially young people, are suffering from negative self-image. That's why we have people go and bleach and put on this and stuff and stuff like that. They can't accept themselves for who they are. That's number 10, and that's the end of the presentation. Yes. Resolve the conflict. Within which? It depends on the context. Is it home, church, workplace? Are you asking about general conflict management, or are you talking about a specific situation? All right. Yes. I'm going to respond to that. Yes, Sister Billy. No, no, it should help. It should help because you should model, as I said to you earlier, you should model the correct behavior. Yes. Very good question. Very good question. All right, so I have a presentation that I do called How to Deal with Difficult People. Right? And it is in connection with what I would respond to Aunt Merle about. So there are two presentations I do. I do a presentation on conflict resolution and one on how to deal with difficult people. Now the Bible does speak to both situations. Let's start with the worst case scenario. Yes, the Bible does speak about in the last days perilous times shall come. And one of the descriptors of perilous times is that people will be aspondos. That's a Greek word that means irreconcilable. So yes, it is possible that there are people in the world, in your life, in your relationship, in your workplace, who are, no matter what you do, you're not going to reconcile with them. And Jesus says, do not cast your pearls before swine, because they're going to turn around and rend you. That's the same. So one preacher, I must give credit to a preacher who I've never seen it this way, but a preacher came to camp meeting once and he explained it this way. He described those people as people who are not ready for your love. And you must be willing to wait on them until they are ready, because you have to maintain your dignity. God give each of us human dignity that we must not, that is a pearl that we must not cast before swine, because they're going to trample on it and still hate you. So if a person is not ready for your love, when you extend the arm of reconciliation, wait on them. Don't wait on them in anger or hatred or bitterness. Wait patiently, prayerfully, and let God do his work. Coming to this point now about something that's nagging you. The truth is that every relationship, no matter how good it is, we are going 17 years now, and I know other people 30, other years 20. No matter how good a relationship is, it is one conflict away from being destroyed. All right, let me put it the correct way. One unresolved conflict away from being destroyed. And the principle, the biblical principle of conflict management is that you must not let the sun go down on your anger. In other words, don't let dew fall upon it. If you, good question, good question. Let me just put that, I need to address it. But once you're offended about something, it needs to be resolved. And don't let the sun go down on it. Jesus says you must go and pray. Don't go and offer your gift to the altar unless you go and resolve that first. Amen, brethren? You know why the Lord said that? Because if somebody is angry at you about something, and him say I pray, you might say to yourself, so what kind of God that? Because the person know that you of your bad behavior, and they say, God tolerating that? Right? So don't let the sun go down on your anger. So if it's a marriage relationship, conflict should be resolved from there. Of course, there are rules, because not in all circumstance will you have this time and space and privacy to address the matter immediately. So you may have to just wait until when head knock pillow and stuff like that. The question about what if you are not upset? Is it a situation where you're minimizing the effect of your anger, or you are denying it or ignoring it? Because that is just as dangerous as being upset, yes. All right. Are you referring to when females No, I know that there are times when female can you don't have to do anything wrong, but something wrong. Anyway, I'm just troubling the female. All right. You know, it's a good all right, so let me just summarize. Even though there's a full presentation I could have done on conflict resolution, but let me just, what's a conflict? Disagreement. What is it that causes disagreement? Huh? That's one, but a conflict arises when one person feels offended. Notice the words I use carefully. The words I choose to use are carefully chosen. When one person feels offended, so it's not a disagreement. One person, two of you in a relationship, and one person feel offended, and it's a conflict. Immediately it's a conflict. That's why if you notice that Jesus used two of them. Jesus used that if a brother have aught against you, or if you have aught against a brother, either case is a conflict. Immediately. Even if the other person don't know. It's a conflict. And therefore, in resolving the conflict, right, the offended party immediately has a duty to resolve it. You don't have the right to say, all right, let me give them a chance. No, because if you give them a chance, no, it's going to happen again, because the person didn't know that they offended you in the first place. So the behavior is going to be repeated. right? So your duty is to express how you feel. The problem is that most of us try to resolve conflict by telling the person what they did wrong. But the reality is that only you think that the person did something wrong. Exactly. The only way the person is going to think and know that they're wrong is when you express how you feel about what they did. And that's why resolving conflict, the experts tell you, don't use you statements, use I statements. I feel this way about what you did. And then you give the person the chance to express themselves. And the person who is being confronted must give the person the chance to express themselves fully and give feedback by listening. By saying, so are you telling me, right, that because I was out all day and didn't call you any at all, because my phone battery was dead, it means that you feel so and so. Okay. And then, and then you must apologize. Even though you never felt you did anything wrong, you must apologize. I am sorry that what I did caused you to feel that way. But so and so. And then a part of the conflict is to come up with a solution. If that should happen next time, my phone battery goes dead completely and I can't communicate with you, what should I do? What's the solution? And I say, you know, what I probably should do is to borrow a phone or something on this side, and then on the other side, the other person should exercise a lot of emotional intelligence and be willing to not assume the worst and to wait until they get to communicate, to ask questions about what happened. Yes, yes. They don't listen. They just hear. Yes, because we are quick to defend ourselves. Yes, aren't you? You have a question? Or the question was answered. Yes. Right, so as I said, the person who is listening have a duty as well. Once a person is offended by what we have done, you immediately have a duty. Immediately you're involved to say, I am sorry that this is how you feel. It was my intention to hurt you, but we'll try to see how we can work it out so it don't repeat itself. Yes. Yeah, very good question. Very good question. So first of all, let me say, non-compromise. Compromise is just as dangerous as being boisterous, right? It might appear that you're peaceful. There's a difference between a peacemaker and a peacekeeper. The one who makes peace is the one who is deliberate about resolving conflict. And the one who keeps the peace is the one who compromises. Compromise is false. So there are two steps to that. One is to give the person time to come around by letting them know that you're still, I don't want to use the word angry, but you're still objecting against that behavior. Are you giving them time to resolve it? And the next step for me is seeking counseling. A third party have to come into play. Because if I can't convince you that this is wrong, and I can't live with it, by the way, because I tell you this, that if you live with it for any time at all, you're going to have to live with it for the rest of the time, and it's going to actually blow up in your face eventually. So you are determined that this has to change. The truth is that I cannot change anybody. So I have to wait on the person to make the change. And this behavior is unacceptable, and I'm demanding for change in the situation. Now, seek counseling, seek a third party intervention in those situations. Yes, I was going to say this, that just this week, a student came to my office, a journalist student, communication student, and she said she wanted to interview me. As a marriage officer. So she's doing a feature as an assignment on why young people are afraid of marriage. And she was asking my opinion on it. And when she asked me for advice, I said to her, just as though you are coming here to college to become an expert in your field so that you can make some good money, it's the same principle for marriage. Your career is a lifetime. Marriage is also a lifetime. So you have a duty to become an expert in marriage. And I think that's part of the problem. That many of us are going into marriage and don't understand the principles and the rules of engagement. And I'm telling you, there are rules of engagement. I've proven them myself, and when I'm doing counseling, I share those rules of engagement with folks. Once you violate any of those rules, it's a downhill tumble for you, unless you fix it, of course. And so one of the things I say to persons who are getting married, what will keep your marriage is not your love for each other. What will keep your marriage is your ability to handle conflicts. Your ability to, when you stop talk, to start talk again. Do you realize that when talking stop, everything else stop? Huh? That's so powerful. So marriage, marriage is basically a long conversation. And part of your duty is to keep that conversation going. Remove all the obstructions out of the way so the conversation can flow. Because if conversation lock off, then everything else lock off. Right? So your work, the hardest part and the most important part of the work is to keep the conversation going. And I don't read mind, but my wife knows that I have developed the ability that once something is wrong, I know immediately. Because if she's a boyish person, happy person, then if she's not happy, then something wrong. That's my assumption. So it's important that we work hard at the conversation level, and the rest of it can deal with itself. Yes, sir. Johnson.
You work hard at everything. At what point would you recommend separation?
I've read Ellen G. White on this because, before I got married, even though I didn't get any official counseling, I read everything Ellen White has to say about marriage. So it's stuck in my head. And I remember her recommending to a husband to send his wife back to her mother. Because she said to him that if you submit to her demands, you're going to go crazy. That's how serious it was. So I think you have to understand your own self emotionally. You must value your dignity. You must know what to accept and what not to accept. These are things that I normally present in the conflict resolution presentation about acceptance. Know you understand your dignity, know your rights, and your responsibilities. Because if you are not fulfilling your responsibility as a spouse, as a husband, you're not fulfilling your wife's love needs, then you have not done the minimum to be able to determine whether or not it requires separation or not. So if you know your duties and know your rights, then when you have done all of that and it's still not working out, then the next thing is counseling. And I always recommend counseling because sometimes we take it for granted that we know everything and we know the problem. But sometimes a third party can see something that you never saw. Last Family Life Day in February, I went to a church in St. Anne. And that is about after close to 20 years. And a gentleman was calling his wife and calling a few brethren and said, come, see the pastor here. When my marriage was in shambles, I went to him and he spoke with us. And today we are together after 18 years. So counseling can make a difference. But sometimes we say to ourselves, boy, we know everything already and whatever. No, you don't know everything, and that's why you're having challenges. So go to the counseling, and the counseling will even recommend the separation if necessary. That's what is required. Yes. All right. So I'm doing several presentations in one. That's all right. So starting with the female, let's start with the female in terms of what your love needs are. As a wife needs attention. When you become a husband, you're in the army, you know, attention. That's what I remind myself. No. Okay, so part of the duty, yes. The needs create the duties. Yes. Attention. And attention don't mean sit down and look in your face and so on. I am still learning how to sit down and do nothing. It's difficult, but I realize that that's part of my duty as a husband. It's hard, but that's something that your wife needs. Sit down and listen and do nothing. Right, Uncle Abba? And having nothing. All right, so some female, come and explain it. Come and explain it. All right, let me fix it up. Right, so you must give full attention. All right, yes. Give your undivided attention. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Right. Yes. Yes. So you're right. What's his name? The 5 love language. Each person have a different weight on different things. So you're right. But these are general principles, and a woman needs attention. She needs affection as well, to feel special. And so you have a duty to pay attention to that, to give her that type of affection and attention. They need to be complimented about her looks and financial security. As a man, financial security don't mean you must be working billions of dollars. It means that you take responsibility for the expense of the home in terms of managing them and taking responsibility for them. And emotional security is to ensure that she feels that permanence in that love. Right? Then for the male, a man needs respect, as I said this morning. Respect, affirmation, yes. What you call that? A cheerleader. An attractive wife. Sex is number one on the list. And the need for peace and quiet. Yes, the need for peace and quiet. When a man comes home, he just wants to sit down and have nothing said to him and just relax until he get him bearings up and running again. It's not a time to be told what needs to be fixed in the house, or to be told, yeah, he needs just come on, unwind. Yes, Miguel. Yes. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. You see, I'm not the only one who think about it that way. But what Miguel is saying is that a man who is responsible is always thinking about what next. Right? And of a truth, I know the wives want us to be thinking about them all the time. But the reality is that if you think about them all the time, you won't get anything done. So you know, so it's a perennial problem. But you know what I've thought about how God does it? You have to come outside of yourself to meet the needs of the other person. So if you're selfish, you can't be a good marriage partner. That's the point. So just as a man who is always busy, as Miguel says, he must be deliberate about saying, listen, I need to cut off 2 hours for my wife at any cost. You're ministering to her needs. It has to be deliberate because it's not a natural part of your makeup. The truth is that it's a little bruising to a man's ego to know that that is the same approach a woman have to take to have sex, right? It's a little bruising to his ego, but that's the reality. A woman has to step outside of herself and be deliberate to minister to a man's need as well as certain needs, of course. So it's a matter of not thinking about yourself all the time, but thinking about the needs of others. 1, 2. Yes. Yes. Yes, so it's a matter of communication and compromise. So you said, dear, I know you want to talk, but just give me a few minutes, relax a little, and we'll get to that. And vice versa, you give up and you wait. Yes. But generally, I don't think women are more selfish. I think both male and female can be selfish. What I'm trying to get at is that for you to minister to the needs of your partner, you can't be selfish. You have to practice unselfish love. And you grow in doing that. Yes, Sister Cam. Oh, you got, okay. All right, so if you got nothing from today, get it that there are rules of engagement. And once you do not follow those rules of engagement, you are opening that crack that Sister Chambers spoke about in the pavement. And that crack will become a big bulge if it's not paid attention. There are, for example, when I'm doing premarital counseling, there are 12 areas that I cover with the counseling here. Right now I'm doing one for a wedding in June. I don't take on a lot of weddings because I am deliberate that I must counsel you satisfactorily, that you understand what you're getting into before you say I do. And there are 12 areas, and I'll progress with you based upon your maturity. And as I listen, I will know I have had to tell a couple that, listen, you're not ready. You know, I had one couple that the man not working and the female working minimum wage. And I said, no, you can't do that. Yes, you might think that you're in love now, you might think, boy, it's okay. But when the bills are to be paid, and you come home and see that man sitting down on the couch, you're going to get upset with him. And it's going to be a problem. So the man needs to find a job. He must be able to provide for his family. The Bible can't write, the Bible says it. And the women, no matter how they compromise, no, just for the sake of getting a husband. Later on, the man going to feel it if he's not responsible enough to take on stand up for his responsibility. Yes. That's a paradox. Boy, I tell you, we have been married for 17 years now, and I remember on 2 occasions. In the first year, we spent about 3 weeks apart because I came here to Jamaica and she was there. And when I got back to Honduras, the phone bill was my salary. So it's not good. It's not good at all. If I couldn't handle 3 weeks, I don't know how people. All right. So if what will happen eventually is that when you go beyond 3-4 weeks and you go into the years, you get used to not depending on each other. Yes, you grow apart. That's the point. You get used to not depending on each other because, listen, you're supposed to be having conflicts every week. That's how you grow in your relationship, by having conflicts, But when you're apart, you don't have any conflicts. And by the way, what I see end up happening is that when you come together and you start having conflicts, you easily jump out and say you're gone again. Because that's a escape. But when you're living together, you have nowhere, not even to sleep in the next room, you don't have the privilege. You have to deal with the conflicts. And that's how you're growing a relationship. So definitely, once you're long distance, you're going to grow apart. And it is not a personality thing. It is not an individual thing. It's the rule that you're going to grow apart. And nobody, I've seen people try it. They have tried to say, my situation is special. But these rules are made by God. And they do not have any conditions or special people. They work the same way, right? I want us to be together. There are times when My wife have to travel overseas, I have to travel overseas, and you come back. And the Bible also says for prayer and fasting sake. Well, sometimes, let me not say that. Go, you, Amen. Yes, it's a commitment. It's a commitment. You made a commitment when you got married by saying, forsaking all others, keeping yourself only unto her. And the critical thing is having an understanding spouse, and being able to work together. That's powerful and necessary. But the idea that you're going to go away, there are circumstances that might force a situation like that, but try and work out a way. I heard a preacher one time say, if my wife go and sleep in the next room, I'm going in there as well, So you have to have that commitment to say, whatever it takes, we're going to stick together, because that's the only way it's going to survive. All right? Thank you very much for your time. It was a very meaningful experience. God bless you. Happy marriage, happy life.